That's awesome. That's awesome. So I just love to get updates on the whole Patrick Byrne. What he had. Supposedly he had General Flynn interviewing people that actually were part of the 2020 fraud. And I guess there's a lot going down in Gitmo, all kinds of things going on. Yeah, so we got a little bit of update from you, I don't know, 5 weeks ago or so. So would you mind giving us a little bit of update on how that's all going?
Well, a real short version, lots of prayer required. There's, uh, this to go without any pushback. And certainly there's some very serious pushback going on behind the scenes. A couple of the folks that did work behind the scenes to establish the mechanisms of how 2020 was stolen are themselves now being targeted for some lawfare. Hasn't happened, and it's only threats so far, but with an interesting angle. And uh, you heard Tulsi Gabbard in the president's cabinet meeting, their situation room actually, where she said, "We now have proof of a stolen election." Um, and so that's well documented. It's understood. There's still work being done there, but there's an attempt to try and push back in the legal arena to go after some of the people that were involved early, uh, to secure these things even up to 2024, and calling the people that showed the fraud, saying that they had interfered in the election. A couple of them have dual passports for various reasons. They live in the technical world and need it for business reasons. And so, you know, uh, it'll be an interesting thing to see how that argument plays out. But um, these are true patriots doing what needed to be done, and willing to let chips fall where they may. So I'm not too concerned. I know that it's different when you're um, on the outside and somebody is right on the inside of what may cause them some drama, hassle, whatever. And so I'm very sensitive to that. But at the end of the day, unlike, for example, Tina Peters' case, where it's a state involved, this is at a federal and international level. Worst case scenario, Trump will step in and take care of him. He can uh, take executive action and nullify anything that may be aimed at these folks. So, not too concerned, but you'll hear things, and it'll sound like it's the end of the world, kind of like this tariff thing. Um, these are unelected judges. Uh, these rules are things that were adopted, um, really outside the Constitution. Uh, quite some time ago. So I think we'll nullify that whole thing with the judges and the tariffs and like that. It'll be a speed bump down the road. It also just, allows Trump to just double down and get the job done, and for cause. So more and more people understand this is part about cleaning up the swamp. They got, if you had anybody else in there but Trump, you'd be toast. And that's the other thing. Just a reminder for everybody. Even now, I have one of my very close friends, and she just hates Trump. Her reason for hating Trump more than anything else is because he's mean, and he has that New Yorker attitude that she just is offended by. Well, you know what? If Trump didn't have a you know New Yorker businessman attitude, we wouldn't even be in this fight. So that personality that was honed in one of the toughest business environments on planet Earth. I mean, you're talking about the big pond where all the killer whales and stuff like that live. You know, it's not just piranhas. I mean, these are monsters that live in that pond.
Yeah.
And Trump has done reasonably well, held it together. Well, that's who you need for where we're at as a country, because it's in tough shape. And by the way, the other thing is, um, and that was another conversation I was having. This situation, remember, Patrick and I have both spoken about the fact that the individuals who did the mechanical work uh, on the election, stealing 2020, it's not over yet. The folks that did that are out of Venezuela. And you saw this thing over the last week or week and a half where there was this press, and Rick Grinnell was trying to, extend an oil deal that allows Venezuela to sell its oil through Chevron and into the world's oil networks and refineries without any inhibitions, no roadblocks. Think of the sanctions we have on Iran and Russia and all sorts of places. Venezuela is the place where the theft of elections all over the world was conducted from under Cuban supervision. Venezuela,
Wow.
the part that's not really understood to most people is that you couldn't even get a driver's license. You couldn't get your social security check for the last 30, 35 years without having a Cuban involved in the operation of proving it. And so Cuba's been running Venezuela. It's a
Wow.
narco state. And uh, so this oil thing with Venezuela is kind of interesting. They're one of the largest oil, if not the largest oil operation on the planet. And uh, the Chevron taking that oil in and then shipping it all over the world, going up to Rotterdam, getting it refined, doing blends and stuff like that all over the place, and nobody's stopping it. So Trump is letting the oil uh, uh, license out of Venezuela expire. It expired yesterday. Now, why is that important? Because it means that the Maduro government that supervised the theft of the 2020 election in America, with their engineers working in Serbia under Cuban supervision, with Chinese overlords, spies, managing everything in the Dominion system, that the money that kept Venezuela going during this time, keeping the people in slavery to
Mm-hmm.
this Marxist regime, that money is being cut off. They're not going to get it out of the global oil machine. And Chevron was working very hard, lobbying people, even right around Trump, let alone Grinnell, to allow this to go on. And you got to ask, who benefits? What was the backroom deal?
Yeah.
Even people close to Trump, friends of Trump, who wanted this deal to go forward, even though these people steal elections. They've stolen 71 elections around the world, plus the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that in mind, that's a pretty daunting thing. And then we're just going to let the money flow to the very, like Al Capone. Let the money keep going to Al Capone, even though he's, doing mayhem to the economy of the country. No, that's crazy. So at this point in time, uh, people need to understand we're still in. There's a lot going on. Think of all the pressure that went on behind the scenes while they're trying to keep this oil thing from expiring, and it's not just millions. it's tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars on the line.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers that they talk about out in Venezuela are, relatively modest. And once it gets into the refinery system, then people make their extra buck. Well, there you go. And I'll tell you this, and this is, I mentioned this to audiences a number of times. I don't know how many people catch this. Uh, we've been fighting. President Trump is fighting in large measure uh, the Rockefeller machine. Now, back in the 50s and 60s, even back to the 20s, it was popular to talk in those types of terms, and it's the families and everything, and the trusts and everything, Standard Oil and things like that. But it's not really understood today. So much of what's going on in America uh, is a legacy of the Rockefeller operations. David Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, Nelson Rockefeller. We have so many players within the family, and then things that they did. The UN was created by the Rockefeller brothers, David and Nelson, did all of the work. The land that the UN sits on was donated by Nelson Rockefeller, and it was a huge slaughterhouse area for 150 years before that. Something with the blood and all that seems relevant to these people. And by the way, what funded the building of the UN building? The Lucis Trust. Lucis, like the Lusitania that led off World War I with the thinking of it. No, the Lucis Trust. They used to have a chapel inside the UN that was called the Lucis Prayer Chapel. Well, who were they praying to? Not the God in heaven that you and I pray to.
Mm-hmm.
And these people have, that's part of their uh, persona that they put out. And by the way, uh, in that same thing, that's part of the thing with Lawrence Rockefeller, and even back with Hillary visiting and reading the book that he wrote about the aliens. And there's an aspect to this where it's not just Lucifer that they have a line for, but also the alien card that they're going to play at some point in the future. So, and if you look at everything that Trump's fighting within the various groups, much of the worst of the fight goes back to a legacy of Rockefeller money and groups and individuals. It's probably at this point in time, it's much less fair to use the name Rockefeller other than its origins, rather the machines that they've built that have a particular bent, the way that they're pushing America, and in the legal arena, in the educational arena, the medical arena. Much of what America is today is shaped by these Rockefeller operations. And what's Trump doing? He's attacking them on their money flow, just like with USAID and similar,
Right.
where this money goes out and it matches some of the private money uh, and keeps these things going. By the way, these pre-1933 trusts, family trusts, they don't pay any taxes. They don't pay any income tax, any U.S. Federal tax or like that. They're exempt. So part of the reason they do so well is that while you're getting taxed, they're not, and there's a lot of angles there that if once people kind of understand it, it's pretty annoying. So uh, going after one of the big cash cow aspects of all of their operations with this connection to Venezuela is classic Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He is tearing it up and going after the sources and origins of the money and unwinding that so that we're not fighting ourselves in a lot of this stuff here in the U.S. Groups that are, you know, running America behind the scenes.
Yeah, I talked to Clay Clark and a good friend Joel Altman, as well as Mike Lindell, as you know, all being sued by Smartmatic and Dominion, and those are really moving forward. They're brought out of by Eric Coomer in Denver, and it looks they're Eric Coomer's winning those cases right now based upon the judges they have and the way it's going, and it's really putting these patriots, true patriots, right, to in a big effort. I'm not sure if you and then now you're talking about others that are talking about the 2020 fraud. They're attacking that with lawfare everywhere. It seems like, and I don't know if you have any thoughts on all those all that lawfare that
Well,
specifically
I
goes
will
with.
tell you this, and a lot of your people probably have already seen it, but last weekend, uh, my chief of staff uh, had received a communication from Tina through one of her people. It was very disturbing, and in the course of a conversation with Tariffs Evans over at American Rights uh, Association, where they just founded that, Evan Turk, Peter Tickton, President Trump's lifelong friend, um, and now Tariffs Evans, the J6er. He is on the board as the chief operating officer. Uh, but in that group, they decided, Trent and I talked extensively earlier in the week on this, and we've been talking for several weeks, but decided to pull the pin. They had a board meeting. The board voted unanimously to um, offer to join Tina's case. Peter Tickton offered to be lead counsel there because there's a couple different legal pushes going on and people, and it really needed somebody kind of manage all of them. And so Tina agreed to that on Memorial Day, the anniversary of her son's death, and in a parachuting accident for with Golden Knights. And so there's a new push there. And I know Tina was crying elephant tears when she heard we were, doing what we can to come after that. There's been meetings all week. I probably spent, 30, 40 hours on the phone in the last several days with all the various parties working through some of the logistics that needed to be done. And hard at it to be able to get Tina out of the state prison there in Colorado. Far from over. There's legal filings that will be filed tomorrow that have to be done on part of the appeal, and then revisiting some of the old stuff. There's all sorts of angles here that really weren't covered well early on. And by the way, Pat Byrne, we've all put money into this. Pat put $1 million into the legal stuff for Tina several years ago,
Wow.
right at the outset. And the attorney really, I think, did not just her, but the country a disservice in the way that he handled it. But we'll deal with that at a later point in time. And so there's a lot going on here. It's not like there hasn't been a lot of effort, but we're far from done.
Yeah, it just seems that if
Again,
if all this stuff would come out, Juan, right? It's like so frustrating. If the whole thing about Serbia and all the evidence they have, if it would come out. But what is the delay? There's the stage has to be set, right? What's going on?
Well, let's hold on a second. It is out. We're not, uh, saying stuff that isn't true here. And even Tulsi saying, yes, we now have proof of a stolen election. Plenty of people have been reached on this. Uh, this is not BS. The problem is there's a lot that goes into something like this, not to create a bad precedent. If you part that's not really well understood by most of the audience out there, if you go about this wrong, things like the federal side of this case, the FBI had people involved in her case from day one. So how can you say it's all a state matter when the FBI was right in the thick of this and had
Right.
personnel right in the thick of Tina's case? And so there was federal issues from the outset and fairly extensively. With that in mind, if you jump in from the federal side and interfere with the state, and the state hasn't released their interest and agreed to work with you, the whole thing could blow up in your face.
Yeah.
So we're very understanding of that, and there's real drama. And I know that these things are being visited in all of these meetings, and it's far from over. But there's a lot of things go into consideration. Even some of the attorneys were of the opinion, no, we could just do this, and the president could do that, and it'd be over. And we've looked at it very, very extensively, going all the way back to last summer and fall, and as this thing developed. And there's a lot of angles that you just have to take a deep breath. That's why it's, part of the thing is that the governor there in Colorado could have allowed, and the judge could have allowed Tina to be out on bail while some of these issues are argued. If it was anybody else, any other case, they'd be out on bail right now. If she was an axe murderer, she'd probably be out on bail, during her appeal period. But this is an election issue, and it's a hot button thing because when it goes the other direction, and it is, these people that are involved, many of them are going away for the rest of their life. They'll never walk free again. And many of them know just that. So they're fighting for every last day. But I'll tell you what, those days that Tina is having stolen from her, they'll pay back tenfold, not just 2 or 3. And it's just the way it is. It's a very tough moment.
Yes, we can't wait until that justice comes from the states there, and so it comes back to state versus federal laws, right, and federal capability. Now we have the federal, but we have all these rogue states, and so that is something that Trump's going to be fighting ongoing, right? But to have elections that have no machines could be a huge transforming change quickly. Do you think that might be before our next major elections?
Well, I mean, you can go look at the proposed executive order that we put together. We had a beautiful team of people after the inauguration. We had private meetings up in Washington, D.C., and coalition members there, and several of them threw together and did a beautiful job of creating this proposed executive order. There was one that had already been created, but it was weak and really didn't cover the issues completely or correctly, I don't even think. And so it's 17 pages long. Into a couple of executive orders for reasons. And the president has said he's got a couple more coming. But that's going to change everything when, for 2026. A machine-free election, it's, the moon and the stars. That said, there's a lot of drama going on in the background and people working to get to the right answers here. And we're not there yet. There's a lot of, for example, inside the Justice Department, one of the areas that one of my people got into office there, he's working with 10% of the workforce that's budgeted for that they had last year.
Wow.
10%. And they're, and this is, out of a group that's like 130 people, they got like 13. Now, they're going to be hiring people on, but they're being very picky to get exactly the people they need, a very precise skill set as litigators.
Yeah.
And so they're not interested in just taking anybody in with a law degree and like that. It's a very specific type of individual, and they're preparing for a much longer, deeper war that's going to go on for years. So better the right people than just fast, and they're working hard at it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to apologize to people that got my email that said 5:30 versus 5. So we're well into this, getting some great details from Juan. Juan, I wanted to just kind of interrupt real quickly just to make sure people understood how to connect with you and Jennifer Mack with the jennifermackstore.com. I just wanted to see as we'll continue this conversation because there's some great information. But do you mind talking just a little bit about anything that's going on at the store that's new?
Well, I think Jen's got 2 days till she releases the instructions on the Great Cookie Contest.
Okay.
And of course, I teased about it and we have some fun with it. But she's very adamant about me not eating anything but actually for real good for you cookies, not just good cookies. So, that's we're gonna have a recipe contest, and you'll want to get the prize if you get the chance to compete. So, but she has some strict rules on what qualifies for being a good cookie, and if you have any ingredients that are on the verboten list, then yours won't even be considered. So you got to get it right.
All right, all right. I see it on the website right now. So you'll see that at thejennifermack.com. That's
Well, and by the
thejennifermack.com.
way, she has, for 4th of July, it's always fun. We have some of these car flags that you can put on your car. Trump is the Magador. I think there's like 30 sets left or something. It says how many on the website. And actually very cool. So, um, somebody wants to enjoy that, might be kind of fun.
All right. And you've obviously got the coins as well there. Watch the water. So
Yeah.
one of the latest ones, right? So just wanted to point everybody here again. You'll find all this on thejennifermack.com. I'm not a yeah. So I just want to make sure you guys know that this is an affiliate thing at all. It's just we just want to help Juan continue to do what he does, and so it's beautiful, beautiful. And Juan, we thank you for being on the front lines here.
Well, she's got those watch water coins are pretty cool, and we've had different coins over the last couple of years, and they've been very popular. And so, this watch the water one, that's Jen's favorite of all of them. And so, and we've got a 2025 coin, Megador coin, we'll make that announcement any day here. But I want to make sure that we've had trouble getting some of the silver rounds. It's a very particular quality that we have to have, not just anything. And so the people that do that prep work are, in fair demand. we put a pretty big load on them. But so as soon as I have verification that we have that order in, then we'll let know that we have our 2025 Megador coming.
All right. For those that might be new to watching you, there's a lot of different decodes on Watch the Water. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, pay attention. I mean, let me just say this. We're in a heck of a situation in the country right now. The threats against America are intensifying by the hour. And one of the calls this morning was an alert. In fact, the call I had just a moment ago is probably a follow up on that. But we're in a pretty precarious moment with the threats against us, with the situation with Russia and China. So don't think for an instant that we're out of the woods yet. We're 15 days into this administration. The worst of it yet. There's probably bigger things coming that we're going to have to fight through. And so deep breaths.
Yeah, and imagine a lot of that is going to require our prayer, right? And so that's one thing we love you having you on the shows because you understand the spiritual significance here. You talked a lot about Lucifer earlier. Anything about how important it is that we use our authority in Christ during this time?
Well, and we're the salt and light in this situation. If you weren't a believer, and I can talk to this audience may be different than some of the other audiences, but if you're not a believer and you hear some of these things, maybe you do feel a little different kind of desperation. As believers, we, have faith that God has us, going to keep us intact, and if we end up in heaven, uh, then we win. It's gain for us. But, that's not for everybody. And, the other side of the coin is I don't want to be in any rush to get out of here. We have work to do, eternity's a long time. We have a moment here. Let's do something beautiful, accomplish something. Remember, out through God's eternity, the children of Abraham, by extension, us, our children, are supposed to be as the sand of the seashore for number, a very, very large number. And as the stars in the heaven, there's more stars in all the galaxies that we can see right now than there is grains of sand on all the seashores on planet Earth. Think about that for a second. So, as the sand of the seashore and the stars in the heaven, that's supposed to be the number of the descendants of Abraham. And, let alone Adam, because it's by extension, it's kids of Adam. That's where it all started. But with that in mind, God's plan is for a physical growing out of everything. Things that we do right now here will have an effect out into the future. I had a business partner, and he'd drive me nuts on particular stuff. He'd say, "Well, 100 years from now, is that going to matter?" Yeah. Some things, yes, more so. Some things not. But you have leverage out into time. What are you doing that might change the world out into the future? It doesn't have to be build a space station or come up with the patent for a bread clip that changes the way bread is packaged or something. It can be that you change a life, that you help somebody to survive and get through to the next day. And, it changes everything. I have somebody that picked up a couple of adopted kids that were in tough shape. And now one is a doctor and one is a very high-end mechanic. for one of the bigger companies. And both of them have kids. Both of them have kids in one in medical school and one in science. Well, if they hadn't got that little jump start back when, now 40 years ago, what would the world be like? Would they have kids to push out into the future? To have a piece, who's going to say that, 100 years from now, they don't have between the kids and grandkids and great grandkids 1,000 people out there. The Earth isn't getting less compact. We have more people here on Earth now than ever, and that's going to continue. And when the Earth is full, it's arguably getting full. We're going to move out into near space and then further out, populate this whole solar system, then go out and populate this side of the Milky Way galaxy. There's an incredible future within our families. Things you do now to preserve life will make a huge difference. Trump has wanted to stop the killing and the murder in Ukraine, in Yemen, and now in Congo. In the Congo, there have been 6 million people killed in the last several years during the Biden administration. 6 million. What would the world look like if they survived, and how many more with them? All the people that protested and stood and were counted at the abortion clinics over the last 50 years. How many women thought again? Who counseled? Who helped? And some, relative handful of women decided not to abort their child. What part of eternity changes because of that pivot? 100 years from now, will it matter? Yeah, my buddy Mike Reagan, his mom decided not to have an abortion and have the baby, and then gave the baby to the Reagans to raise. Without Mike, there wouldn't be kids, grandkids, great grandkids. There's a whole wing that's there because Mike was allowed to live. We do affect things. Sometimes it's in smaller ways. You just get one person through. There's a Jewish saying amongst the rabbis: he who saves one life, it's as though they saved the whole world. And life has value. Those 6 million dead, the ones that remain, have immense value. There may be whole branches of families that are gone forever. And the ones that do remain are way more precious because, they represent something within the family of God. The devil wants them all dead. We want them to live. So little things that we do here within the audience has real value.
Yeah. If I get, thanks so much. And that's why I just talk about always using our authority in Christ to pray. We'll be praying for all the people that did all the great work to expose the 2020 election and all their lawfare that are going
2020, it's not over yet.
All right. We have, and there's a shirt, by the way, if you go to Jennifer Mack's store, you go to, there's all kinds of 2020 stuff here. You'll see in the store. I'm just rolling through it right now. Here's a jacket. It's 2020. It's not over yet. That's the jacket you'll see here.
Yeah.
Notepad. I don't know. That looks like a vintage premium matte finish. What is that? Poster. It's a poster. So go get yourself a. 2020. It's not over yet. What's this? A vintage canvas. I know. talks about that all the time. So we have a quick question. See if Terry, make it quick though, because we want to hear from Juan. I'm sure Teresa. Teresa, go ahead.
I was just wanting to pray for him. I don't have a question. He's doing a great job.
Okay. All right. We'll pray for him here after we get through this, a little bit more decoded on this. So
okay.
Juan,
Sorry about that.
No problem. So Juan, so you didn't answer the question about watch the water, the decode. Oh, looks like we dropped Juan. Looks like we got right during that time. Let me come back to here, see if we can find Juan. It looks like Oh no, Juan's here. But no, I see him, but he's lost his microphone and his video.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
He's probably gonna have to reboot. No, it's not you. It's him. So we'll bring. I'm sure Juan will come back here in a second after it gets through a bad area. But then to summarize, those of you who came at 5:30 because that's what my email said, wanted to let you know that we did cover about there's a lawfare attacks back on. I would imagine Patrick Byrne and others who are fighting this battle, and just like they're attacking Joe Altman and Mike Lindell and Clay Clark with their Smartmatic money, right? And now we're seeing that against the people exposing all this now. So I see Juan's. Okay, yeah, it looks like Juan. It looks like you're back. I'm going to ask to unmute button. Make sure he's careful driving there. But so we're going to have some prayer work to do. We're going to have praise and prayer after this show. We're going to have to move to a different for any music. My licensing, I have to move to a different channel. So it's called Word and Worship. Word with an N, Worship. So once Juan unmutes, we'll go back to him. And so I just seeing his video, his camera, his audio looks like it's working now, but we'll have to see if we can get him. He's messing with his phone right now, so let me see if I can get it to. There he goes.
All right. You're muted. There we go.
All right. Yeah. No, we're about ready to pray for you there. But hey, but again, thank you so much for the summary and updates on Tina, and as well as the 2020 election. And then you sent something to Gus about the judges. Is there anything specific you want to talk about the judges? I think you've addressed that in summary, and also.
Well, I just the judges are the judges. They make a move, we make a move. This is about actually going through all these things and checking the boxes. I had somebody on a case the other day, and they were fussing because they were having to go back through and deal with something in court that was old stuff that didn't get taken care of previously. They were calling it lawfare and everything else. I said, no, let's just tidy it up. Once it's taken care of, it's off the thing, and now they're on to more important stuff. If it was left there hanging, let's go clean it up. Let's not complain. Let's just go fix it so it's no longer there. America's got so many things that have been so screwed up for so long. So what we're really doing is we're going in, addressing them, and getting them out of the way so that we can prepare for success. And every day we're getting closer and closer. This, get things cleaned up, and God can begin to bless us. With
so I'm
even like COVID. Think about how much people went through. They cleaned all the surfaces up. They tidied things up, etc. Okay, well, there was a negative side to it. It was part of the stealing elections like that. But the positive side is everybody's got things sanitized and clean, and they understand the rules. For a very prosperous period ahead for America, and it's coming.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, the best is yet to come, right? That's
Yep.
That is exactly what what we've been talking about. So, but that doesn't mean that we. So the near death experience you talk about, do you think we hit that and have moved through it, or do you think
No,
that's still coming up?
it's still coming.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's going to be based upon just once they realize they've lost power. It seems like if somebody's so evil, you have to let them think they can win. But once they realize they're about ready to lose, they're going to pull the trigger, right?
Yeah, there's the it's. I don't want people to get lost on it. There's some resetting that has to happen. Some things have been weaponized that have to be um, neutralized. There's some checkpoints ahead, in my opinion. So everybody has to just kind of take a deep breath, and we work these issues. It's not over yet.
Right. And there's a decode I did the other day where it was talking about how Trump is going to have to suspend habeas corpus and go to military tribunals. Do you believe that's
Yeah.
probably what's going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, they're pushing all of the buttons, including the tariff stuff and like that. Okay, well, this is a national security emergency. We know for a fact, it's now known inside the machine, inside the system, very well. Tulsi Gabbard told the world, we now have proof of a stolen election. More and more officials are being read in right now.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the courts are participating, trying to stop what President Trump is doing to protect America from enemies in multiple fronts: economic, political, the vote, military, even weaponization of um, uh, viruses, things like that. Trump has to do certain things. If they're going to stop him from doing it within the justice side of things, he'll move into the military side because it's a national security emergency.
Right.
And so they're proving that military is the only way.
Yeah.
And he's working the issue with that in mind. Um, and also the public then realizes, yeah, there just is no intermediate step. They're not gonna back down and let us have this win. They're gonna fight to the last possible moment, because at the end, this is the end, literally, for the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
We got rhinos in the Republican Party, but it's different. Even there, the situation on the Democrat side, the people involved, I think it's going to be a wipeout. And there'll be a replacement. There'll be something else that pops up. But in the meantime, I think that the information that's out there, what's gone on, it's very telling where this is going.
Yeah, and it's quite exciting, the whole Q drops that I've reported on all the way back from 2018, early 2018. Clearly talk about the military is the only way.
Well, the first few drops on 30th, of 2017. So went back quite a ways. You think about how much has elapsed in the country since then. Oh my gosh. Here we are, 7.5 years later. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. It is amazing. And the military is the only way, obviously, is a statement there. Nothing stops what is coming. And now Trump is actually retruthing a lot of these statements out. So it seems like he's setting the stage. He's talking about the stolen election really bluntly, more probably than he ever has. So it seems like he's setting the stage for the public to see what you and Patrick know the details of. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think, there's people being read in every day. The people that are aware of exactly what's occurred here is growing within government circles, and then seeing how this is going to be dealt with. We're far from done. There's a lot of work to be done, but it's getting in to the right places. And the only question is, can you do it in a Justice Department led investigation and courtroom, or is it going to have to go somewhere else? And I think it goes somewhere else. So,
Yeah.
enjoy the show.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think it was. What we're proving, it's almost like they're really forcing us to suspend habeas corpus and go to military tribunals because the judges, they're showing that the what you talk about captured operations. Aren't we seeing that much of the judicial system is captured?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I mean, by the way, if you go back and you look at the leak that happened during the case that led to the reversing of Roe versus Wade, um, that release, you know, there's a certain school of thought that release was done by one of the justices who was not happy. So, not by a staffer inside the Supreme Court. So, you know, we still have potentially people in very high places that are opposing uh, some of the conservative stuff that we're doing and that what other justices were doing. And then that's part of the situation. You know, Trump was being opposed by people very close to him on this Venezuela Standard Oil Chevron thing. There's huge pushback in the military against the people that are working on this 2020 situation and even getting ready to move people to Gitmo. Fight's on internally. It's a heck of a fight.
Wow, wow. And that just reminds me of there's several prophecies about two justices being removed for corruption, Supreme Court justices. And Roberts, many people think Roberts compromised based on hating the kids and his adopted kids and many other things. He seems to vote against us anytime it matters. So, any thoughts on John Roberts?
Well, you know, let's see what happens. I wouldn't want to pontificate on something that's not. Everybody knows what the issues are that reportedly would compromise him, and so we'll just have to see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because the one beautiful thing would be is just Trump getting 2 or 3 more Supreme Court justices in, but again, this all that we're all talking civil here, right? So some people like Derek Johnson and others would say it doesn't matter because it's going to the military tribunals anyway.
Well, let me just say this: it does matter.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have a sense of justice, and even the need to go to military. There's still going to be a lot of civilian sides to this that have to be dealt with out over time. So it's just there's some that are best dealt with there within the military system, and so we still prefer to have our legal system work, you know, inside the justice system, and we'll try to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean that's to me the best case scenario is that much of this is one with our DOJ and our new FBI and that restores trust in those institutions, so that when we go through the military tribunals and come back, we're not starting from scratch, right? We're at least.
Well, and by the way, you know, there's big questions. Is the FBI even a legal constitutional agency?
Wow.
Is that going to get reconstituted at some point in time? Lots of drama ahead. We're far from through with this situation.
Wow. Yeah. No question. So so you mentioned prayer requests for just the people that were, I think it's Patrick and others, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And any other things?
And by the way, you know, some of these people, there's stuff that people have no concept of going on behind the scenes. Remember, we're trying to keep Iran from doing something wonky. we have the stuff in the Yemen. You have, millions dead in the Congo. People have been dying every day this week. Some of the pictures that I have from the people that are there, it's just, horrors. And, once somebody's killed, they're killed, but then to try and do it in the most gruesome or painful way, that's done for the sake of terrorism, to scare everybody else that comes and to hurt. It does something to the soul to see people in such murdered in such horrid ways. So it's a tough situation there. And by the way, we're losing people every day. I just had somebody that was a beautiful person that got bit by the meth bug, couldn't, get it out of their system,
I'm so sorry.
passed away. Yeah, well, not suicide, but the meth is just so unpredictable on the amounts, and passed away young, late 40s. These drugs in America are killing people every day, and it's horrible. It may not be with the same savagery that we see there in the Congo, but it's still, people that are, gone early. They get captured by that bug and they just can't get free of it. So, easy to throw stones and pontificate, but at the end of the day, but for the grace of God, there go any one of us. So, and you don't realize, even in within this audience, that particular person, I'd say about 5 or 6 weeks ago, I got a chance to spend time with them and break bread. And, in the conversation, there was some stuff that was kind of wonky. And I said, well, you might want to just say a few prayers on that and, talk to God about it, because I don't think you're on the right path, the right mindset. And I get it, but you need to, end that meeting with a prayer. You don't know where people are at. The one I'm thinking of here right now had lots of monstrous challenges in life, including some health issues. And so we all need to be, life is so fragile at one level. We see people that are very fragile and they just hang on and last and keep going, and they somehow persevere and like that. In this case here, I was very concerned. That's why I slowed down to take time with them and talk with them, because I just had that sense that it reached some different point. And we all need to kind of think that way. There's probably in this audience numerous people who have somebody pretty close to them that they deal with that doesn't need to be preached to and doesn't need to be pontificated to, but does need to know that you're there with them, you're praying for them, not in a preachy way, but to try and get them to think again. Sometimes you're able to get there and sometimes not, and then praying them through it. Again, you can't say that you came to God, but for the grace of God to take a hold of your life, your soul, your everything about you, you wouldn't be here at all. Every breath you take is a gift from God. So
Amen.
if you're getting gifts from God, you need to use them for His purposes. Take that breath in deep and use it for something that pleases Him. You know, that the Christ, you know, He summed up everything in the Bible, everything, with the statement of, you know, love God above everything else, even your own life, and then love those others around you as yourself. You know, if you wanted something done to help you do something to, you know, show a kindness, whatever, you know, not even the least of the things you do for one of God's children is forgotten by God. If you provide so much as a clean, cool cup of water, God gets it down in the book. He notes it for any of His, you know, children. And you may think, well, that's not a person that, you know, God cares about or whatever. Well, He cares about everybody. And if you're able to, you know, bring somebody back in that's lost their way and get them back on some kind of a survivable path, that's a big deal. Deep breaths. Everybody here can do something. Even the most important thing, prayer. You know, how many people, you know, people that have become a Christian, rededicated their lives, got back on the path, and there was somebody in their life or around them that was praying for them. And you know, that's our job. You know, that's what we do. That's who we are. That's what this audience is all about. Silver and gold. But such as I have, give I thee. In the name of Jesus Christ, rise up. Uh, um, uh, you know, a good word. That's who we are as an audience.
Yes. And Teresa's asking for some prayer right now, and we're going to get to that in our praise and prayer. We're going to do that. So I just want to let you know, Teresa, we're going to do praise and prayer at another channel. The link's below in this description. After we're done here, we're going to move over to that channel and do praise and prayer. And we're going to be lifting up prayers for you specifically. And we want to, Juan, maybe you have time for, I know you're going to go into bad area here pretty soon. So, but there was one question that Di had from the UK saying, does Juan know if there's any plan to close down or criminalize the media telling lies, aka Operation Mockingbird? Any thoughts on that? And then we'll move to prayer.
Oh, well, hold on. You know, we had a convention. I don't even want to say exactly what it was that happened a few days ago. And in the course of that convention, now over the last several years, I've talked to some of the players involved very personally, very directly. And they had told me certain things that, you know, I knew were not even close to accurate. But it wasn't the right time to challenge them other than say, well, you know, I'm not sure if I'm understanding this the way you are. That's not true. But I was trying to work with these people and get them to think again. And in the course of everything they did, they got to this convention that happened a few days ago. They tripled down on some of the things that were just flat not true.
Right. It looks like you're getting spotty as you're going up the mountain.
Oh, sorry. But at the end of the day, they were revealed. They were exposed every day. Let them continue to report false